The initial shock of her leaving is a unique and devastating pain. It's not just an emotional wound. It feels like a fundamental tear in the fabric of your reality. The world you built together, once so solid and certain, collapses into rubble in an instant. In the deafening silence that follows, your mind becomes a torturous echo chamber, replaying every conversation, analyzing every missed signal, and revisiting every memory until each one stings like a fresh cut. This absence is palpable void that feels louder and more oppressive than any noise you've ever known. It's in this raw state of despair that your mind, seeking to make sense of the chaos, latches onto the most painful narrative available. This is it. She's gone forever. It's finally over. You begin to believe the lie that her decision is a permanent, its unchangeable state, as fixed and final as a law of nature. You interpret her parting words, often sharp, decisive, and designed to sever the connection completely as absolute truth. You convince yourself that the bond you shared, with all its depth and history, has simply evaporated into nothingness. This belief system becomes your prison because you are applying a masculine, linear logic to a fundamentally feminine, emotional process. What you don't yet understand is that women often operate from emotional cycles, not permanent states. Their emotional reality is fluid, like weather. It changes, it flows, and it can contradict itself from one day to the next. The intense emotions she feels in the heat of the moment, the anger, frustration, the profound disappointment, are completely real to her in that moment. But they are not fixed. They are a snapshot of a storm, not the permanent climate. Just as she once looked you in the eye and swore she would never leave, only to eventually walk away, she can just as easily swear in this moment of anger that she will never return and yet find her way back when that emotional storm passes. Her words are not rooted in timeless truth. They are rooted in the overwhelming intensity of her current feelings, and feelings by their very nature change. They shift with time, with distance, with quiet reflection, and with the often disappointing reality of life outside the relationship. To base your entire sanity on her words spoken in a state of high emotion is to anchor your life to a mirage. You are torturing yourself with illusions that feel real now, but are not built to last. The first step to reclaiming your power is to see her departure not as a permanent ending, but as an emotional event in a longer, more complex story. Her departure, regardless of the stated reason, is frequently a test. It is a profound examination of your character, your stability, and your core identity. The script for this test is written by a common expectation. She anticipates a specific, almost ritualistic response. She expects noise. She expects the phone to light up with pleas, long paragraphs dissecting the relationship, and desperate attempts to negotiate. She expects you to chase, to beg, to logically argue her back into your arms. She expects to see you crumble, to witness you orbiting the void of her absence, thereby proving her central importance to your universe. This reaction, while driven by genuine anguish, is exactly what validates her decision to leave. It confirms that her power over your emotional state is absolute, and that leaving was the correct choice to elicit this level of response. This is why you're most potent and strategic. Weapon is not a clever argument or a grand romantic gesture, but a profound and disciplined silence. This is not the silence of weakness, of pouting, or of giving up. It is the silence of strength, a deliberate and powerful non-reaction that completely flips the script. When you choose not to chase, you disrupt the entire narrative she had prepared for. You refuse to play your assigned role in her drama. Instead of confirming that she was your entire world, you communicate a far more compelling and unsettling message: I am my own world. This respectful but firm radio silence forces her mind to do all the work. The absence of the expected noise is louder than any message you could have sent. Her imagination, once expecting to picture you miserable and waiting, is now forced to contend with a different reality. Questions begin to creep in, fueled by the void you left instead of filling with your desperation. Is he not upset? Did I miscalculate his feelings for me? Has he already moved on? Did I actually mean less to him than he did to me? This seed of doubt is psychologically corrosive. It eats away at her certainty far more effectively than any attempt you could make to convince her. Your indifference, your ability to hold your frame and protect your peace, becomes magnetically intriguing. By continuing to build your life hitting the gym, advancing your career, nurturing your friendships as if her absence is a significant event but not a world-ending catastrophe, you demonstrate a value that is incredibly attractive: self-possession. You become the man she starts to miss, not because you are pleading for her return, but because you are demonstrating the very strength and independence she may have felt was missing. You are not the source of drama. You are the oasis of peace. You are not orbiting her. You are the center of your own gravity. This is what pulls her back. The man who didn't break, who didn't beg, who respected her decision enough to let her go and focus on himself, is a man who commands respect. He becomes the puzzle she can't solve, the stability she now craves, and the prize she fears she may have lost for good. Your power lies not in convincing her to come back, but in becoming a man worth returning to. It is critical to understand that her decision to leave is rarely a simple movement from one tangible reality to another. More often than not, she is not walking away from you as you truly are. She is walking away from a painful reality and into a seductive fantasy. In her mind, the act of leaving is not an ending, but a beginning, a heroic step into a new life she has meticulously imagined. This fantasy is a powerful antidote to her present dissatisfaction. Perhaps she believes the next man will provide the constant, thrilling validation she feels she lacks. Maybe she envisions single life as a montage of freedom, adventure, and endless options where she is the celebrated protagonist. She is not primarily leaving the man in front of her. She is chasing the feeling she believes exists just on the other side of the relationship. This distinction is everything. She is leaving for what she feels might exist, not for what demonstrably does. The grass is not greener on the other side. It is artificially green in her imagination. And this is where the inevitable, humbling process of reality begins its work. The fantasy, by its very nature, is perfect and boundless. Reality, however, is flawed and finite. The newness of another man's attention is exciting, but it is also shallow, lacking the deep history and understood shorthand you shared. The thrill of freedom is quickly tempered by loneliness and the mundane burdens of managing life alone. The fantasy, once pursued, begins to crumble under the weight of the ordinary. It almost always disappoints. It is during this quiet disillusionment that a subtle but powerful alchemy occurs within her. Absence begins to reshape memory. When she was with you, her perspective was dominated by the grating, up-close view of your flaws. She felt the weight of your mistakes, the irritations of the daily grind, and the imperfections inherent in any long-term partnership. But once she is gone, distance acts as a filter. The sharp, painful edges of those frustrations naturally soften and blur with time. Conversely, the positive moments, the shared laughter, the intimacy, the comfort of inside jokes, the feeling of being truly known begin to shine brighter in her mind's eye. They are no longer overshadowed by the petty arguments of yesterday, without the constant friction of the relationship. Her mental highlight reel starts to play, and the man she walked away from gradually transforms in her memory. He becomes less of a collection of flaws and more of a symbol of lost comfort and connection. This is when regret, that quiet and insidious emotion, begins to creep in. It's not always a dramatic revelation. More often, it's a series of small, sobering realizations. It happens when she's lying in bed beside someone who doesn't know her favorite coffee order, or how to make her laugh when she's sad. It strikes when she scrolls through social media and sees a glimpse of the life she once had. She isn't comparing you to other men yet. She is comparing the disappointing reality of her new situation to the idealized, softened fantasy of her old life with you that she has now created in her mind. This cognitive dissonance, the gap between what she fantasized about and what she actually got, is the fertile ground where second thoughts grow. The pivotal factor that determines the ultimate outcome of this separation is not the fluctuation of her emotions. but the steadfastness of your response. The critical choice you face is not between waiting for her or moving on. It is between decaying in place or dedicating yourself to a profound transformation. This journey is not for her. It is the ultimate reclaiming of your own power. The most compelling argument you can ever make is not spoken with words, but demonstrated through a complete metamorphosis of your character, your body, and your life. Women may leave for a multitude of reasons, but a common thread is a sense of stagnation, a belief that they have fully mapped the terrain of your potential and found no more exciting frontiers to explore. They believe they know exactly who you are and, more importantly, who you will always be. Nothing shatters this perception more completely than visible, tangible evolution after she is gone. When you channel the pain, the confusion, and the silence into fuel, you begin a process that is utterly magnetic. Getting into the best shape of your life is not vanity. It is a discipline that radiates self-respect. Diving into your mission, whether your career, a business, or a passion project, is not a distraction. It is a reclamation of purpose. Developing new skills, expanding your social circle, and cultivating a life of richness and interest are not acts of moving on. They are acts of building a new, more powerful you. This transformation is the ultimate curveball. She left one version of you only to witness the emergence of another stronger, sharper, more disciplined, and more self-assured. This forces her to confront a terrifying question. Did I make a mistake? It creates a storm of cognitive dissonance where the man she comfortably dismissed now becomes an object of intrigue and often regret. She begins to wonder if she underestimated you, if she gave up right on the precipice of a breakthrough she never knew was coming. This is the crucial shift. Your growth makes her reevaluate her entire decision-making process. However, the true power of this transformation is that it liberates you from the need for her validation. Your focus must irrevocably shift from will she come back to who will I become? This is the foundation of unwavering strength. When you build a life so compelling and fulfilling that her presence is merely a potential addition rather than a necessary component, you win regardless of the outcome. If she returns, she does not encounter the broken man she left. She meets a superior version, a man who has proven he can not only survive but thrive without her. This dynamic resets the entire relationship, establishing a foundation of respect that may never have existed before. If she never returns, you are still the victor. You are left with a life enriched by discipline, purpose, and self-respect, assets far more valuable than the approval of someone who chose to walk away. Your power, therefore, is not held hostage by her decision to return. It is cemented by your decision to rise. The man who emerges from the fire of heartbreak, refined and resilient, is the man who ultimately holds all the cards. Not because he has manipulated a situation, but because he has mastered himself. The final stage of this journey is often misunderstood. The fantasy of her return is typically painted in dramatic, cinematic strokes. A tearful admission at your door, a full accounting of her errors, a plea for forgiveness that validates all your pain. In reality, the return, if it happens, is almost never so clear or so noble. Pride is a powerful force, and it rarely allows for such a complete surrender. More often, her re-entry into your orbit is subtle, almost casual, designed to test the waters without ever admitting she's swimming back. A seemingly innocent message, "Hey, how have you been?" Months later, a sudden like on an old photo, a coincidental appearance somewhere she knows you'll be. These are not the actions of a person who has achieved full clarity. They are the cautious probes of an ego, checking to see if its old territory is still available. If the power it once held remains intact, this is the most critical juncture, where most men fail after having done everything else right. The instinct to finally receive this signal is to flood the zone with attention, to immediately welcome her back and pour out all the feelings you've been holding in. This reaction, while human, is catastrophic. It tells her instantly that you have been waiting in suspended animation, that her power over you is undiminished, and that she can access your emotional energy on demand. It confirms that your transformation was a performance, not an authentic change. To handle this correctly requires a strength even greater than the initial silence. calm, grounded detachment. Your response must be polite, but uninvested, warm, but not eager. You must show, through your actions and energy, that her reappearance is a minor event in your now full life, and that the door to your inner world is no longer on a latch she can easily flip. You must understand that even if she returns, her motivations may be complex and not solely rooted in love. She may be returning for comfort, for familiarity, because the fantasy of greener pastures dissolved into the bleak reality of disappointment. She may miss the stability and loyalty you provided more than she misses you as an individual. Your clarity here is paramount. If you have truly transformed, you will not be blinded by the mere attention. You will be able to see it for what it is, a test, not a gift. And if you pass the test by maintaining your frame, you flip the dynamic permanently. Nothing will instill a deeper, more lasting regret in her than the realization that she came back to find the man she left behind has not only healed, but has genuinely outgrown her. This journey leads to one of two conclusions, and both are forms of victory. The first is her genuine, earned return to a rebuilt relationship on a foundation of newfound respect. The second, and perhaps more profound victory, is reaching a state of such wholeness that the idea of her return holds no allure. This is the ultimate closure, and it is not something she gives you. It is something you claim for yourself. It is the realization that you don't even want back the thing that once shattered you. By the time her pride cracks and she truly comprehends the value of what she lost, you have often already built a life so complete that her presence would be a subtraction, not an addition. She is not your destiny. She was a chapter. Her departure was not the end of your story. It was the painful, necessary plot twist that forced the hero to evolve. The man who emerges understands that his power was never about controlling her choices, but in mastering his own response. His victory is not in winning her back, but in becoming a man who is no longer defined by who leaves him, but by who he chooses to become.